I remember the day like it was yesterday. President Reagan was speaking at a memorial service for the crew members of the USS Stark that had lost their lives as a result of a terrorist attack during the Iran-Iraq War. 36 service members gave their lives on June 1st, 1987. President Reagan said one sentence that resulted in me joining the Air Force. He said, "The men of the USS Stark have protected us. They've done their duty. Now let us do ours." I believe this was when I started on my journey to doing my duty. During this speech, I will share with you some of the events that shaped my decision that day I heard President Reagan speak. My story starts in Detroit after high school. I really didn't have a set of direction or real goals that I wanted to establish with my life, but I did end up going to college. I started out at a 2-year university, majoring in electronic engineering. Two things I realized. I didn't like school, and I didn't want to do electronics. But after that, I realized I went into electronic engineering because of the money. No other reason. Not really a good sound plan. I worked, right after that, I decided to do a minimum wage job, not in fast food. I actually went and worked at a hospital. I was a patient escort. I actually pushed people around the hospital, this major hospital complex, for all day. But one thing I realized, it didn't really have any advancement and no real future. That's when I decided I had to make a transition. I worked with a young man who had did 4 years in the Army. And one thing I realized, he had did 4 years in the Army, but now he was in the same dead-end job and, well, no future. That's when I decided to join the military. My first journey was start out with the Coast Guard. Like I said, originally I was from Detroit, and I decided that I didn't really want to leave home. So I said I'll stay in Detroit, join the military, and leave it at that. But I made the appointment with the recruiter for the Coast Guard, and when I got there, he no-showed me. So as I'm leaving the building, I walk past the Air Force office, and I see the recruiter sitting at his desk. He's sitting there reading the newspaper, and I walked into his office and I said, "Hey, I want to join the Air Force." He said, "How do you know you can?" I said, "Well, I haven't been in trouble with the police. I'm not pregnant. I haven't had any law enforcement problems," which I already mentioned. I'm physically fit, and I'm pretty healthy, and no kids. He said, "Okay, come on in." Took the test. Actually, make a long story short, joined the Air Force. After 4 years, though, some of my goals and decisions that are the reason why I joined the Air Force changed. My original plan was to go into the Air Force, do 4 years, done. Go back to my normal life back in Detroit. But during that time, my life changed a little bit. I got married, and we had a daughter, a child. That's when my priorities and my goals changed. I couldn't accomplish the goals that I had set out without the Air Force. I got some college, got some marketable skills. Started out as a police officer in the Air Force and then transitioned into being a recruiter. I actually did computer technician, which is what I do now, which gives me an opportunity to have those marketable skills long after my career is over. And one of the other parts that I realized in the Air Force that I didn't plan on was travel. My original plan was to stay in Detroit, but as I've been in the military, I've got to see some amazing places I never would have even imagined. Now that I'm out and I'm coming to the end of my career, one last benefit and goal that I never even thought at such a young early age, which is retirement. I'll have a check for the rest of my life, which is not a bad thing. So, to conclude, I provided you with a little insight into my life and some of the decisions that led me to the Air Force. I've told you about my beginnings and going to college and some of my minimum wage work that I did, then deciding to join the Air Force and how my priorities changed with my family and some of my goals that I've attained and still working on, like this college class. And I hope this provides you some better insight into some of my decisions. And I thank you for your time.